Good evening, everyone. It's another Wednesday evening and another Golden Goal Fantasy Football podcast. Yeah, in this one, as usual, we'll be covering FanTeam, and as always, I'm joined by Sam. How are you getting on, mate?
Yeah, good mate. Had a kind of a weird week really because didn't have a whole heap of returns across the pitch, but stuck the armband on Sonny, and he pretty much single-handedly kind of did the business for me. So yeah, not too bad. Same for you, isn't it? Something you had a
Yeah,
sort of similar.
I've got my girlfriend to thank who doesn't really care about football and despises fantasy football and what have you. But yeah, I proposed her Salah, Son, or Kane, and she told me to captain Son. So I captained Son because I was completely torn on what to do, and thought what she'd give me was a random answer. And yeah, he was amazing, wasn't he? The goal he scored with his left foot from outside the box was insane. I think I saw a stat that he scored more goals this season with his left foot than his right foot, and he's right-footed. Absolutely
Yeah,
amazing.
he's a quality player and someone I'll be probably keeping hold of now to the end of the season. So yeah.
I'll quickly whack up how I'm getting on in the full season game. Then, unfortunately, I couldn't show the points from last week because the game week had already rolled over. But I had Schmeichel in goals. I had Alonso, Trent, Rudiger, and Cancelo. I think did Trent play? I think he got rested,
No,
didn't he? So
rested.
I think I had some bench fodder come in for him. And yeah, Alonso and Rudiger, I think, just got a sultry like 2-pointer each or something. Cancelo got his clean sheet, and then the captaincy still on.
They got 2 points between them, mate.
Yeah, it's bloody rubbish, isn't it? But I think
Yeah.
they're going to have to stay. Then I got Son, Salah, Saka, Mount in midfield. Mount's been pretty bloody disappointing, to be honest. I think he's been unlucky, to be fair. I gather he hit the post. He had one where it hit both posts or something at the weekend. I didn't watch the game, but it sounded like he came pretty close to scoring. But yeah, Sonny is my captain, was my number one this week. Without him, I would have fallen back about 500 ranks, I reckon. So really happy with that captaincy. And then I had Kane. I don't think I played Dennis. I think I played Madison last week. But yeah, I had Kane, and I think Dennis ended up coming in. And then I got a bench of Foster, Madison, Broya, and Webster. I think overall at the moment I'm about 1500th. Which, you know, it's it's nowhere near you, for example. We're going to see your amazing team next, but I think from where I was January, February time, I've steadily climbed about 1,000 ranks, so I'm quite happy with that. And like I keep saying on every pod, I've been lucky enough where I've piggied up backed off of a free entry I got to the Euros. So far I've invested £0 into FanTeam, so I'll be quite happy with whatever I get as a return, to be honest, this season. But yeah, I mean, I won't go through it in detail now. We can look at it when we get the fixtures. But next week, game week 36 is so exciting for transfers and doubles. And my God, I think we're going to have to chat it out, really, aren't we, to work out what moves we're going to make, because there are just so many options for me here. Yeah, I won't go into detail. We'll look at your team next. Got your
Good.
team up now, mate. You're flying by all accounts.
Yeah, but as you can see, guys, quite a poor week, really. I mean, Nick Pope, 3.3 return. A back three of Van Dijk, Alonso, and Rudiger, like you just alluded to, Tom. Alonso and Rudiger coming into nothing. Van Dijk coming up clutch again with a 6.9 and a clean. Son, Salah, Saka, Havertz, and Ramsey. Saka getting the assist, but I think he got a yellow card. Ramsey, you know what? Ramsey, for his price, mate, I've had him for a few weeks. He's ticked over with a couple of 3.7s. No complaints whatsoever on that one. Salah obviously comes off the bench, but I think so many people in the more engaged managers would have been in exactly the same boat with Mo Salah, so not really a worry there. We'd have all just taken 1.4 on the chin. Sonny, yeah, nothing needs to be said there. What a differential captain. Well, I would say differential captain pick, but maybe a slightly alternative captain pick. I messaged you, didn't I, about 10, 15 minutes before deadline, said I'm going to go Salah. And then I just had this sort of like reminder that my initial gut was on Son initially before the game week had started, to just went, right, I'm going to go back on Son. I'd seen no mutterings of a Salah benching either. Stuck the armband on Son, and I'm really happy that I made that decision. I really would have been kicking myself if I didn't. And then Kane and Weghorst up front, I think. Yeah, I can't remember exactly who's come in for Trent there. But yeah, Foster, Trent, Dennis, and Doherty on the bench. Obviously, only two playing bench there. And Dennis would have netted me another 2 points on top of Veggie, so no real loss there. Rank rise, about 150 in the end up. I think before the United game, I rose to about 320 or something and ended up around 440 on the Monday night. So really happy moving forward. And I got 2 free transfers into next week, but loads of things going on inside my head of which way to go, much like yourself, Tom. So yeah, happy to thrash a little bit of it out in a minute.
Yeah, oh, happy to have a think now, to be honest. I mean, it's only my
Yeah.
second chance team to go. I mean, what options are you batting around? Have you got like 2 or 3 main things that you're thinking about?
Well, I spoke to a couple of people of, let's say, some decent caliber in the game, and one of them was Josh, obviously one of the winners, and Josh sort of thought, sort of make no changes whatsoever. And then I've spoken to Dave, who's flying really high in Sky, and he come up with a few really cool alternatives. About my concern was always around Havertz. I think I'm obviously always going to go with my own thinking. That's the way I play the game. But my thinking was that Havertz was going to be. Sorry, I'm just looking at my team here so I can go through it. Havertz is going to be a little bit of a worry. I quite like the Alonso and Rudiger pick still, so I was quite happy to hold them two. But my thinking was Havertz was only going to play one of the two. Hasn't been setting the world on fire as of late. Was there a better option for me there? And my sort of current thinkings are, do I go Doherty to Cancelo and then Havertz down to Gordon? Have Gordon for the 4 games, which you think he's going to play all of them. He's a real good outlet for Everton. Sorry, when I mean the 4 games, I mean the 2 doubles back to back. And then that brings me Cancelo in, which kind of covers off City and probably City's best defensive asset as well. And then suddenly gives me Van Dijk, Trent, Alonso, Rudiger, Cancelo, play Foster in goal for his double. And then I've used my 2 frees and I've got 11 doubling players, but I'm also a little bit more set up for the week after. I'll have Anthony Gordon for the 2. I'll have Ramsey for the 2. And then potentially make a move of Dennis or Weghorst to Richarlison for that second week, or Watkins or Ings or something like that. I think haven't quite priced all of that up yet, but I think I've got enough money to do that. Or I just go Pope to Casper and leave the team as it is. So that's kind of where I'm at, Tom, at the moment with it all.
Yeah, I think when we looked at the Sky Pod, we were sort of predicting the game that there will be some rotation because Cancelo's a big player in the Sky game. For those that don't play it, he's been absolutely amazing in that. And yeah, because you get a captain every day in Sky, so he's a very popular player on that front. And we were suggesting that Man City got a lot of games over the next 7 days, and I personally think there is 1 out of the next 3 fixtures that Man City have in the league, Cancelo is going to get a rest. And it's just whether it falls. I don't think it'll fall this weekend. I think he'll play the game this weekend. But they've got, is it Leeds this midweek? I can't actually remember.
They've got Wolves to start with.
Let's have a quick look, see.
Man City have got Wolves, and then I think they've got
Newcastle on Sunday, and then Wolves on Wednesday.
Yeah.
So I think Cancelo will play the game on Sunday against Newcastle, and then I think he could be rested on the Wednesday. So, bringing in a Cancelo to cover the double, is it worth a transfer if he only plays? There's a good chance he might only play 1 game. I don't know. I really like the Pope to Schmeichel shout. That would be my choice, I think, mate.
Yeah, I think there's a few options. I think the issue that I've got, and I'm certain more will have, is that all these moves that are like players we've either currently got or players that we want to go to, there's pros and cons, and the cons for most of them are when and where is that rest going to come. And I think that can be said about, probably not about Trent or Van Dijk for Liverpool, but same about the Chelsea assets and the Man City assets. And so do you want to move Havertz to Foden? Is that just a sideways move, for example? Because will Havertz and Foden both play 1? Probably. And this is the problem that I've got going around my head at the moment. I'll be more than happy, mate, to have Foster playing two games in goal, and then the week after putting Foster back on the bench and then having Pope for his double. So I can see merit in all angles. I think it's going with something that's going to set you up for the coming game weeks afterwards. You're always going to need a good slice of luck in who's playing. To add to your point, Tom, about Cancelo, Kyle Walker starting tonight in the Champions League.
Oh, I didn't check
So,
those lineups. Yeah, yeah.
so with Kyle Walker back in, that potentially maybe does open the door for a Cancelo resting at some point. I didn't even think of that because he's been so solid all season. But it's a really really good point.
Yeah, and they missed Kyle Walker in the last fixture, didn't they? So yeah, makes sense that he's starting. Yeah, it's an interesting team, that Man City team. Actually, Foden's playing as well, so that suggests he might get a rest in the week as well in one of those games. Same with De Bruyne. Obviously he starts tonight against Madrid. Same with Mahrez as well. Jesus is starting. So all those like Man City players that people will be fancying, there's a good chance that one of those is going to get a rest midweek, I think. Or all of the favourites might get, play only one of the two, for example, based on that lineup.
Yeah, it's a really solid point. And, Edison will probably start the 3 games. Sorry, the 3 games. The 3 games over the 2 game weeks, sorry. Do you envision Diaz starting them all? Laporte?
I think that's a good point, actually. I think John Stones is carrying an injury at the moment, isn't he? And it's just whether Pep is brave enough to play Ake at centre-back in the Prem. I don't trust him at centre-back. I know he's not done too badly, but I think Pep will want to go, as long as they're fit, with Diaz and Laporte at the back for all of those games. That's my opinion. I'm no expert on predicting Man City teams. What I would recommend is that people keep an eye on Luke Disable's Twitter account, because he does some excellent Man City team predictions. But I do think Laporte and Diaz maybe also, along with Edison, probably the most nailed to play every game.
Well, could make that Doherty to Laporte move. Which seems strange going for him instead of Cancelo, who Cancelo is the premium City defender, but with exactly what you just said in mind, he's been so ever present, hasn't he? You're thinking there's got to be a rest coming in, and who knows where tonight's going to go as well. I know that most of the viewers will have the benefit of watching this.
What's happened, yeah.
What's happened, yeah. That throws me more food for thought, mate, for sure.
Yeah, hopefully, yeah. And I might, if you don't mind, I'm going to quickly flash back to my team, because like I said, I'm not quite as high up as you, but I've got some decisions to make myself.
Are you just in season long?
Yeah, in the season long, mate, and second chance too, but I think that's a little bit easier. But for the season long, I'm in an hour, and I've got 2 options I could do. So I can do Kane to Kevin De Bruyne, and then Mount down to Richarlison. That would be an option. Or I could just downgrade Mount to Gordon and then upgrade Broja to Richarlison.
My thinking would be the second.
Yeah, I'm moving towards that too. To be honest, when I first got to like Monday and looking at that team, I could not think of a way I could even. I've got 2 free transfers. I couldn't even think of a way I could use one, because I had 11 players that with a double game week. But the more we think about how these fixtures lie, etc., the more it looks like players are going to get rested. But with that Everton team, how important those games are and how little like depth that they have in that squad. I think the likes of Richarlison and Gordon are just going to play every game. So I think they're a couple of nice additions to make.
So you're going to accumulate just through appearance points, 90 minutes points, nearer 8 to 10 points over the 4 games, which if you have a Mount or a Havertz over 2 game weeks and they're rested for 1, then you're looking at needing a return on each game. I know this is so hard to predict, and I'm talking completely hypothetically here, but just someone who's going to be nailed for 4 games in a row in a team that's fighting for their lives and is one of their 2 best assets in Richarlison and Anthony Gordon. I just think the 2 of them are really good shouts. I really like Watkins and Ings as well, Tom, as strikers, but what puts me off is the Liverpool game a bit, but they're at Villa Park, and maybe that's just a little bit of my bias towards Liverpool. I know they've been great this season, but I think they're both really, really good shouts as well. And I know I was talking to Josh earlier, and he was a big advocate of Watkins. If he's playing down the middle, tends to shoot. You'd hope he's going to get sort of 90 minutes across the board there and start all 4. And again, are you going to accumulate some nice just game time points? My preference for the 2 would be Richarlison, though.
Yeah, I think so. Richarlison, credit where it's due, he's been pretty good. I know he's given a bit of abuse for rolling around on the floor against Liverpool, but I think he was a bit of a handful for Liverpool in that game, to be honest. I think he played quite well despite being a bit of a baby. And, well, it's all part of the game, isn't it? That shithousery, and he's pretty good at that. But yeah, Richarlison is Everton's main man at the moment, isn't he? He'll be everywhere. He's on penalties. They need to win some games. They need to score goals. I think they'll be looking to him. And he just seems like a player that can step up to the occasion a bit as well, can't he? He can really get himself up for the big games. So, yeah, I quite like Richarlison too. I think that's what I'm going to do. Yeah. So Mount to Gordon, Broja to Richarlison.
Yeah, and you're setting yourself up there for 4 fixtures. For 2 players that are going to probably play all 4. I just think when you click submit and you've made those moves, you're going to be happy with that as you move into that next game week.
Yeah, I'm not going to be sweating it over a Man City team or anything like that. Yeah, I like that. I'm conscious we've talked about all of that without really giving anyone context of the fixtures, but I'd like to think that most people are aware of the upcoming double game week.
You're going to pull the fixtures up and we're going to have nothing to talk about, but I think it's kind of been like I said, this has been a great week to do it.
Yeah, and like we were saying, there's 36, there are a lot of quality teams with double game weeks. And I already think that most of the players that will be watching this, at least, I'd like to think that most of the people that watch this for FanTeam are engaged with the fixtures and stuff. Most of the quality teams are doubling this week. So we've got Spurs, Liverpool, City, all of the teams where people own players from are doubling. So I think if you don't have, for example, literally 11 players that are doubling this week, I think you're at a disadvantage. I think if you don't have 11 doubling players, you definitely need to make some transfers to make sure you're in that position this week, I think. But if you do, I do think 37, you need to be cognizant of buying players that also double in 37 if you're going to do it.
That's my thinking as well, Tom.
Because those Man City fixtures are so good, aren't they? I mean, they've got Newcastle, Wolves in a double game week. That is pretty ludicrous. But like we keep saying, they've lined up with all their key players against Madrid, and it's Wednesday. They play Newcastle on Sunday, and then they play Wolves on the following Wednesday. Do you fancy all of the key players to play both those games? I just don't see it myself.
No, and that's where the supplementary players of Richarlison, Anthony Gordon, where they are going to play, they are explosive, they are their best players, are going to become really, really important. I think Ramsey, Watkins,
Coutinho as well, to be fair.
Coutinho, Matty Cash, those sorts of players are just supplementing those kind of bigger premium players are going to be a really, really good shout. And Tom, I talked about this on Sky, but Chelsea have got Leeds, Wolves, Leicester, Watford. I know they've got the FA Cup crowbar in there, but they've got plenty to play for in the Premier League, and they're going to want to build rhythm and momentum for the FA Cup. So I don't want to sleep on Chelsea defensive assets as well. That's why I'm quite happy to keep the 2. I think if anyone had the 2, I don't think this is the week to come off them just yet. You might reassess into next week, but I'll certainly be keeping my 2 Chelsea defenders for this game week.
Yeah, I'm completely inclined to agree. I'm selling Mount because he's been a bit disappointing, and I need the funds to get someone like Richarlison. But yeah, I'll be keeping my defenders for sure.
Well, I think that leads to. Well, I was going to lead to my next point. I think the attacking assets is a different conversation because I think there will be some potential rotation in there, and like you said, they haven't been firing on all cylinders. They're not a hugely free scoring team anyway. They're usually better on the defensive front. So, with the fixtures in mind that they have, I would back their defensive assets. I think Wolves is a great fixture at home for Chelsea to bounce back and really kick on towards the end of the season. So, yeah, that's my sort of thought processes on the fixture list really there, Tom.
Yeah, we looked at... we spoke about game week 37. The doubles are quite nice in 37 as well. Looking at those Villa fixtures, they've got Palace and Burnley, and Everton have got Brentford and Palace. And then Crystal Palace have got Aston Villa and Everton. They're another option for 37 as well. So those doubles in 37 are quite nice. So I think another reason to be targeting those players.
Yeah, I think you'd want, again, the same players we talked about. I think when it comes to 37, there's going to be a want and a desire for Watkins, maybe even a Aston Villa defensive asset. I mean, Tom, there's a shout here for like a Jordan Pickford or something like that. I mean,
He's not the worst option, is he, for these couple of weeks? He really isn't.
No, there isn't. Watford, Leicester, Palace, and Brentford. If you're going to see them pick up any points, then it's going to be in these 4 games. You know, you put a couple of these teams down where they're going to pick points up. Palace, Brentford, Watford for sure. Leicester a little bit trickier, but yeah, I think there's a good shout for that. And again, this is why I think my decision making is going to be left to the last minute.
Yeah, and I think Kasper Schmeichel, like you said, you were thinking about bringing him in. I think he's a great option too. But the thing is with Pickford as well, I think even if he doesn't keep a clean sheet in each of those 4 games, he doesn't have to keep a clean sheet. He'll make enough saves in those 4 games to make it worth it, I think.
Yeah, so my sort of advice, or certainly my thinking anyway, maybe not advice, but my thinking here is any moves that you're making now in 36, you want them to have a double benefit then into 37. Because I've got 2 frees and I am willing to take a hit if I need. But I feel like the only way I would do that is to set myself up and put myself in a really good position then for game week 37 as well. I don't want to be getting to 37 and kicking myself that I've brought someone in that I then don't want. And I want to have Watkins or Matty Cash or Pickford or whatever it is. So kind of look at the fixture grid and then, need a little bit of luck alongside that as well, Tom, for sure. And then make your moves with 37 in mind.
I've just had the little buzz in my ear to tell me my AirPods are going to die soon. So hopefully we'll be okay for the end of the pod. I've just got a couple of questions to flash up. First one through Andrew Barnett. A question that I haven't really thought about price changes in FanTeam this season, but he's asking us, what is your advice on how to improve overall team value over the season by taking advantage of the weekly price rises and drops? I think earlier you had the exact words from FanTeam on how they decide on their price changes. You just want to reel that out for people that might not be aware of that.
Yeah, so
sorry to put you on the spot a little bit, mate.
That's right, I've got it here. Price changes will be based on player form using our in-house XFP, expected fantasy point metrics. We will not be providing the full method used here, but be assured it will remain consistent and has been thoroughly tested prior to the season getting underway. I think it's also worth adding price changes will occur once each game week in a single batch. The changes will always take place within 48 hours of the last match concluding in a game week. I think we talked about this before, didn't we, Tom? And I know you'll probably elaborate on this, but my thinking with price changes is not to really take them massively into account. Keep them in the back of the mind, yes, but you made this point really well to me earlier, and it sort of sat with me with the price changes. Choose to get on the good players early and then leave them in your team, and then you're going to get that increase in team value as you go. Obviously, we're talking about this now at the end of the season, so it's a little bit more maybe irrelevant, but certainly into next season, hopping on those players that you think are going to perform well over the next, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 games, and then have them in your team and accumulate the value there.
On a couple of occasions this season, when a team has not had any extra fixtures, so I think, for example, when Chelsea had no extra games and Alonso became quite an option, I think I brought him in immediately after the deadline after Chelsea played their Premier League game. When I knew that he didn't get injured and he didn't have any games midweek, I brought him in to avoid any price changes. But there aren't many occasions where you can do that when a good player doesn't play another midweek game or there's a risk of injury, etc. I think it's still, much like FPL, it's still worth waiting right up until the deadline before you make your transfers. Yeah. And like we say, I think FanTeam have nailed it with price changes, by the way. They change the prices of players based on how good they are rather than how many people are buying them. So it's obviously a bit harder to mark the trends, because I know in FPL there are some websites that can just tell you when price changes are going to happen, but with FanTeam it's a little bit less predictable as well, which is another reason why I think it's not really something to worry about too much.
Yeah, but it also favours the good player, where if you're on someone who's performing well, then your player is going to gain in price, and if someone's doing well that you've got your eye on, you also know that they're then going to go up. I think, like you said, Tom, there's only been a couple of occasions where I've actually jumped on someone a bit earlier than I would towards the end of the deadline because I've seen my financial kind of element in my team is tight, and therefore gone for the move. But 99 times out of 100, just leave it towards the end of the week. So hopefully that answers the question. I don't actually focus on it. Again, I focus on, probably like you, getting in good players early that are going to score me good points, and then I build that team value from there.
Yeah, exactly. And another thing to add with that, I mentioned that Alonso scenario earlier in the season. Exactly that, mate. You just said it there. I had 0.0 million left in the bank once I brought him in, and I was really worried about that price change happening. So, like I said, he didn't have another fixture where I'd worry about him getting injured, and I had 0.0 million in the bank when I made the move. So, and it just felt in my gut that he was going to get a rise, and so that's why I made the move. So I think there are specific scenarios where it happens, but most of the time, just play the game, and the price changes will come with the good players.
Yeah.
And a final question, hopefully, well, without giving too much away, he put it on Twitter, so I'm hoping that publicly sharing Shenanigans' team is okay. But yeah, our good mate FPL Shenanigans, he didn't tweet this directly about the pod, but he asked us a question. He deserves a shout out because he's having an amazing season.
I think he's like 20, top 30, I think.
So yeah, I feel absolutely honoured to be even, considered it as an opinion to help with your team, mate. But we'll roll through your question quickly. So he says he's got 2 free transfers, 0.3 million in the bank. He's currently thinking of going Son and Broja to KDB and Gelhardt from Leeds. He's asking us, what would we do with the team on screen at the moment? So he's got, I'll just quickly reel through for people that might be listening. He's got Ramsdale, Cancelo, James, Konza, an interesting option, Konza, I quite like that. Son, Salah, Foden, Saka, Havertz, Kane, Watkins, Davies, Kilman and Broja. And he's looking at moving Son and Broja to KDB and Gelhardt for the double. Yeah, what are you thinking, mate? Anything that's screaming out to you there?
So, Ramsdale, Cancelo, James, Konsa, keep. Son, Salah, Foden, Saka, keep.
Yep.
Havertz, question mark. Kane, keep. Watkins, keep. So obviously players that could then go from there. Broja, Kilman, Davies, he pretty wants to keep on the bench, and then Havertz. So that would be that's my initial thinking of who I'd want to remove from there. Who for? We've obviously had this conversation a little bit earlier. I think Watkins has got 4 games, right? So that's a great shout. The thing with Broja is, who could you have to stay with? If this is the season long, you have to stay within the formation, don't you? So he'd have to do a Broja to, he'd have to do a Broja to a striker. So he's thinking to Gelhardt, isn't he, to allow some money? But the only real other viable options there, I'm thinking, would be someone like Richarlison. And then Havertz maybe downgraded to Anthony Gordon.
Yeah, so I'm just looking,
like or Ramsey.
What money he might have. Yeah, exactly that. I was thinking doing
0.3 in the bank.
He's got a very similar position to me, hasn't he? Where he's got a Chelsea mid in Broja. I'm doing my Chelsea mid to Gordon, and then Broja is going to become Richarlison for me. I'm just going to see what you can do with the money because you've got a little bit more than I did. So it's just whether you could do like Havertz to Coutinho maybe, and then Broja to Richarlison. But I don't think he can quite afford that.
No, I don't think so. That won't work. He'd have to go Havertz to like Ramsey or Anthony Gordon or something like that.
I still don't think that's the worst I'd pick in the world, to be honest, because you'll still have plenty of players to... Yeah, you don't even have to start Gordon if you don't want to.
No, but then he could upgrade Broja to Richarlison, so he'd get Richarlison and Watkins. He'd get 8 fixtures over. Is that right? 8 fixtures over 2 games. Jesus Christ! And then with Konsa as well, there's your 12. I'm a little bit aware, Tom. I know that the bias is going to come here, but no Liverpool defence whatsoever. How good Liverpool have been defensively this season. Obviously, there's routes to points, of course. That would concern me a little bit. But then again, I really like his kind of Cancelo and James, super close. And then, Konsa, 4 games over 2 game weeks. So I think the interesting point here, Tom, is... Have I lost you?
No, I'm still here, mate. You're a bit laggy, but I can hear you. Keep going, mate.
Sorry, mate. Yeah, I think the interesting point on the conversation was on the thread was Son, and I think there was quite a few people saying don't get rid of Son, and I saw you comment saying how.
Sorry about that, folks. Hopefully that was a pretty seamless transition because I think I just managed to pause it as Sam had a few internet issues there. You were just talking about Son in Shenanigans' teammate, so feel free to carry on.
Yeah, sorry guys. I think it was my internet that just decided to go. Yeah, I was just saying. I think Son's a hold now to the end of the season. I think his style of play and Tottenham's style of play will suit playing against Liverpool and Arsenal. And I think I saw those comments a little bit on the thread, but that would have been my immediate gut reaction is keep Son, especially Son to KDB might be a little bit of a risk with minutes for KDB, whereas, Son's probably going to play 2 times 90 minutes, barring injuries.
Yeah, I can completely agree. And we said it at the start of the pod, didn't we, that the Man City team against Madrid, obviously we don't know the result. KDB could get injured in that game anyway, right? We just don't know yet. It hasn't kicked off. But, Man City are playing KDB against Madrid. He then plays on Sunday against Newcastle, and then he plays on Wednesday against Wolves. That's a lot of football for... I wouldn't consider him injury prone, but he's pretty prone to niggles here and there. So I think KDB, 3 games in 7 days, I don't think Pep will do that. So, whereas, like you said, Son's going to play every game because he's the 90-minute man for Spurs. He's one of the best players in the world at the moment. So I don't think he'll be getting dropped.
No, exactly. He's got some difficult decisions to make this week, but I think we all have. But hopefully that gives him our kind of 2 pennies worth on the team and where he should go. But ultimately, he's ahead of us anytime. So
yeah, that's all that's what I've tried to say. Sorry, mate.
Take your own instinct, mate, over us two.
That's exactly what I've tried to say to him because he's asking me for advice and I'm like 1500th, right? Whatever he's done has got him into 21st. So whilst he's had a bit of help here and there, his way of thinking has worked. So I'm trying to not phase him too much, even though he's asked for advice. So
no, I think he'll probably hear what we have to say and then use it to make a sensible move going into the next game week.
Yeah, that just about does it. Hopefully that was helpful for all of you guys. I imagine we're not the only ones with some real transfer decisions to make this week. So yeah, just hopefully everyone gets on all right and has a good game week. And yeah, I mean we've pretty much solidly backed Son and Kane. So yeah, hopefully they can do a bit of damage. And yeah, we'll see what happens. And yeah, just good luck everyone. It's been a great season. Doing a pod to all of you. And yeah, thanks for listening and all your support. And good luck for the run-in. We'll leave it there. Cheers everyone.
Thanks, guys.